Yeah, maybe you should put it down. Thank you. I appreciate it. I had my step stool, but I forgot it, guys. I'm learning, so, and then we'll bring it back up for. All right, we got it. We got everybody. Can you guys? Yeah, for the governor. All right. Can they shut the trucks off? Okay, we're good. Let them get by real quick. Yeah, let them get by. Test 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3. You guys all got good sound? All right, we're good. Okay, hold on. Let's get the trucks past here. Otherwise, you're gonna get that in the background. So. Okay, yeah. Grab them real quick, please. The governor's got a lot of emergencies he's got to deal with. Can we get the truck shut down? Anybody? That, like, real quick. Otherwise you hear the rumbling. So. Good. All right, we're going to get started as soon as we get the guardsmen. All right, guys, just give them 1 second. We'll get started.
Are there any... Do we know if there's any reporters that are going to need Spanish?
Do we have any Espanol that's going to need Spanish interpretation at the end? Okay, we'll provide that at the end, please.
I'll interpret, but I'll speak at the end, but it's not going to be an interpretation of everything. But if you have something specific you want, ask me. Okay?
All right, thank you, everybody. I'm Sheriff Tina Nieto here in Monterey County, and standing behind me is the devastation that we've experienced. If you were here just a few days ago, it was very surreal. I was out behind me, you can get the shots later, but these high water vehicles, I was actually out with the guards as we were doing rescues, and we got stuck in where we're standing. We had to send another high water rescue vehicle out to pull one of our own out of this devastation. So that tells you how high the water was. We're lucky it's receded. We're lucky Mother Nature has given us a little bit of a reprieve on our weather, both here in Monterey County, to the north of us, and to our neighbors to the south of us. We're tired. Everybody's tired. As your sheriff, I just want to say thank you to the community out there who's listened to us, to listen through the orders, to listen through the warnings. It's hard. It's hard for our workers. It's hard for some of our most economically impoverished neighbors when we go through stuff like this. And so I just want to thank you on behalf of Monterey County and all my partners behind me, both on the state, the federal level, of my local departments that I've been working with. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for working with us. And I want to thank the press, too, for getting our messaging out the best that you can. You guys have been a tremendous help, and I can tell you as your sheriff that I'm always there to listen and answer any of your questions, the easy questions, the hard questions. We're there to talk and work with you guys to build relationships. With that, I've talked to you guys a lot about this emergency. I'm going to introduce from our Santa Cruz side Under Sheriff Clark, who's been a partner with us throughout this whole thing, because it's both sides of the levee. It's both sides of the Pajaro. Watsonville and Pajaro, we're sister cities, or brother cities, or sister and brother cities. With that, Under Sheriff Clark.
Well, thank you, Sheriff. And I just want to say a few things. For one, thanks to the governor's office for being here and our local electeds for really what's going to become probably a long recovery for this area. And really what I wanted to speak to is really the human issues that exist around not only this situation, but really what's been this entire year. 5 times, at least in our community, we've asked folks to go into an evacuation warning, to leave their homes under an evacuation order. This back and forth, warning, order, and then our communities from San Lorenzo to the San Lorenzo Valley, Paradise Park, Felton Grove, downtown Soquel, Aptos, and in our areas in Watsonville and our sister city in Pajaro. Really, the folks that are displaced by these events, from the floods, the rain, the snow, it's been a lot. And so our shelters are, hundreds of families at our local shelters, and I just want to express our compassion for what everybody's been going through. And so this isn't lost on us at the Sheriff's Office, on us at with the County of Santa Cruz, and obviously not lost with your local officials. We're here to help respond and obviously recover from this situation. It's going to be a long process, but our communities are strong and we're resilient. And so as a testament to this resilience is why we're here. And so obviously we'll be doing everything we can to help get everybody back home and back to a sense of normality as absolutely as fast as possible. But again, just our utmost compassion and just and really patience for dealing with all of what you've been going through. So our hearts go out to you. And with that, I'll turn it over to Supervisor Church with Monterey County.
Good afternoon. My name's Glenn Church. I'm the supervisor representing this district here. First thing I want to do is just really thank the governor for coming out here. I mean, this is an area that doesn't get a lot of attention, and to have you spend your time here, you know, look at these issues, look at this area and what it's gone through. It means a lot, and you know, I want to express my gratitude, and I think I can express that for the people here in this community, the gratitude that they're getting with having the governor coming out here. I could see them waving to the governor as we were driving by out in the community. I'm a native out here. I remember as a kid, you know, going down to many of these stores and shopping in there. But what's happened here this time is, you know, this isn't the first time this has happened. A levee was built in '49. This is the 5th or 6th time that we've had a flood down here. And these people, they're strong, they're resilient, they're working people. They just want a fair shake. And they keep getting, you know, knocked down onto this. And we have a plan in place now with funding to really deal with this levee. It's just unfortunate that the rain came before we got that plan in place. It's going to take a few years, but they need a help now. They need a hand up right now, and hopefully, you know, we can do a little bit more for them and give them a real straight path forward at this. They deserve it, and they are, you know, I know they're just wanting to go home right now, and hopefully they're, you know, we're going to be able to get that arranged in the near future. With that, I want to introduce the chair of the Board of Supervisors here in Monterey County, Luis Alejo. Luis.
Thank you very much, Glenn. Thank you very much, everybody. On behalf of the Board of Supervisors and our County CAO, Sonia De La Rosa here, we first of all wanted to thank all our first responders, all our mutual aid that came from other counties, all the volunteers and donors, and all the state support that we had. We have so many people to thank for doing such heroic work. The community of Pájaro is a community of almost 2,000, mostly Latino, low-income, farm workers and immigrants, people who are salt of the earth. But the people who have the most to lose here, they have so little but have lost so much. And we want to really thank the governor for coming here in person, because it shows compassion, it shows concern, and it shows respect to all our local residents, that the governor is here visiting Pájaro itself and visiting the area where the levee breached just a few days ago. It's by the grace of God that we didn't have more water poured through this valley, and it's by the grace of God that the waters have receded so quickly. So we're looking forward to the recovery phase to help this community come back home, but to make the repairs needed, which is going to take time because there's been so much devastating damage by the water and the mud. But we are asking our state and federal leaders to help Pájaro get FEMA on the ground, help them get the assistance to fix up their homes and their neighborhoods and clean up the streets and fix up their businesses. There's a lot of work to do here. We're going to be with Pájaro from the beginning to the end. But what we can do, what we do need, is to really make a commitment that when all the rains are gone and all the news has left, we need that follow through to make sure we do the work that is needed on the levee, expedite the permits, make sure the money is there from the state and from our federal U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And we also have some other projects in South Monterey County where we lost over 75,000 acre-feet of water, of stormwater that could have been stored. And it could have also helped us control the floods on the Salinas Valley side. There's been a lot of damage in San Nardo, Chular, Gonzales. I want to make sure that all these disadvantaged communities in our county get the attention that they truly deserve. So on behalf of the residents of Pájaro, we thank you, Governor. We thank everybody for coming here today to give the attention and focus to this community that is hurting, that is suffering. These are our friends, our family, people that we love and we care about, and they need that follow through from all of us. De parte del Condado de Monterrey, nomás quiero dar las gracias a todos que vinieron hoy. Es nuestro gobernador que vino en persona, porque eso demuestra compasión y respeto a la comunidad de Pájaro. Y es importante tener el apoyo de seguir trabajando para reparar las casas, las calles, los negocios aquí de esta comunidad de casi 2,000 residentes, muchos que son latinos, gente de bajos ingresos, campesinos, que dan mucho para nuestra área. So I want to thank you all for coming. Last thing I forgot to mention was that all this devastation around this area, there's over tens of thousands of damaged farmland. In the long term, that really means that farm workers, thousands of farm workers are going to be out of work, many who do not qualify for unemployment insurance. It's going to take months to regrow harvest on these fields because of the contamination. They're going to sit fallow for up to 60 days. So we also need to give resources for those who won't have any other means to pay their rent, put food on the table, and provide for their families. With that, thank you very much. I'm going to introduce my colleague from the county of Santa Cruz, representing the city of Watsonville, right across the river here, Felipe Hernandez. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here, and I want to thank everyone that has showed mutual support and mutual aid for Pájaro and Watsonville. And I want to thank the governor and the state for really supporting our communities here. Pájaro is our neighbor, and it's a community, there's a lot of families there that are economically disadvantaged, and many of them are undocumented. And so we support them, and as a county, we're committing ourselves to mutual aid to Pájaro, to Monterey County, and collaborating with the state, the federal government, and local government for the critical recovery process, because that's the next phase. And on the county side, we have Santa Cruz County. We're still operating at level 1, our operations center, and we still have areas that are flooded in Watsonville too, especially the College Lake area, where actually right now there's homes that are still underwater on College, and we're pumping water from those neighborhoods out there. We have storm damage throughout the county, actually. And so on Main Street in SoCal, we repaired a road on Main Street within 24 hours to allow close to 500 residents to get through there. We have different areas that we're working on to improve levee protections at the critical levee protections right down a couple of miles from here at our wastewater treatment plant that's under threat. So we're making sure that we protect that asset as well. And so I'm just grateful that we have the coordination with Monterey County, the city of Watsonville, the both sheriff's office that are here, and many of the nonprofits that have come up and helped out our residents at the shelters. There's a huge need for food, resources, and I think the community and the nonprofits really stepped up in a way that is really exemplary, and I think all the communities stepped in to work and collaborate together. That is really a model for EOCs. And so I want to thank everyone, for being here. I want to thank the governor for being here. And next we have Assembly Member Robert Rivas, and he's been really instrumental in securing funds for flood protection.
So good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us. I as well, I want to thank our governor, Mr. Gavin Newsom. I want to thank him for being present. I want to thank him. I know that this is certainly his visit here is meaningful for our community. It's meaningful for all of us to have him here to view the damage, and certainly for a community such as ours here in the Pájaro Valley. A community that for decades and decades, we've seen just a level of underinvestment from the federal government, even from our own state government, when it comes to critical infrastructure projects, as we saw here, all the damage to the levees. And so very thankful that he's engaged and that he's here. Our region, the city of Watsonville, this is a special place. I live in Hollister. I've lived here my entire life, like many of our other local elected officials, and so we care about this community. And so certainly in these challenging times, we're very grateful also to our first responders, sheriff and our undersheriff, who have very courageously done their best to keep everyone safe. They have risked their own lives to ensure that this community is protected. And so certainly we see you, we value your work, and we thank you for ensuring that our community is a safe place. Of course, our work is only this is only the start. This is the beginning of the work that we have ahead. We must do all we can, both at the federal level, at the state level. We must step up. We have to step up to ensure that our community here in Pájaro, we have to ensure that that this community is rebuilt, that our families get the support that they need, that our levee system is strengthened, so that this never happens again. You have my pledge, Mr. Governor. You have our pledge here in our region to work with you in Sacramento to ensure that our community and the people who live here, that they are supported and that they are protected. You know, as was mentioned, it can't go unnoticed that many of those that were impacted by these floods and by these storms are most vulnerable residents of this region, and that's our farm workers. They have been devastated by these storms, you know, and I'm very thankful to the many local, regional, and state agencies that are coming together to provide resources, to provide assistance. And in my office, our staff, I know at the local level, our supervisors have stepped up. We are always available around the clock to offer support to ensure that their needs are being met. You know, this is a time where we must come together. We have to come together to lift up everyone, to lift up our neighbors. This community is very resilient, and certainly it's going to take all of us to ensure that we lift this community up and we move forward. And so with that, I want to introduce our governor, Mr. Gavin Newsom.
Thank you. Assembly member, I'll brag on him in a moment, but let me first brag on everybody behind me and members of the community. This is when California is at their best. I've seen it over and over and over again. At times of crisis, people coming together across their differences, regardless of jurisdictions, regardless of political backgrounds, people coming up, stepping up, and stepping in and filling voids that are left by the very nature of the scale of the challenges and disasters that we faced. Of course, this was the 11th atmospheric river of the year, the season. We're only in March. None of us naive about what we're looking forward to next week, potentially on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 12th atmospheric river. You look back the last few years in this state, it's been fire to ice and, you know, no warm bath in between. This weather whiplash, the extremes that we are going through. If anyone has any doubt about Mother Nature and her fury, if anyone has any doubt about what this is all about in terms of what's happening to the climate and the changes that we're experiencing, come to the state of California. I was here when this region was in a different state of mind just a week or so ago. Here, of course, a few months ago, after the January storms as well. And it's quite sobering to be here with your sheriff, and what a remarkable job she has done, collaborative spirit, and her commitment and resolve to make sure we meet the moment and the state steps in and does its job. But to see the devastation, to see what I have seen here 48 hours after the peak of that devastation, I'm also mindful of, but nonetheless, we are very, very cognizant about the work ahead of us, and I'm not misled by the fact that the waters have receded, quite the contrary. Nor am I going to mislead you by the fact that this state stands ready, as the chair of the board said, to be here when you're not, when the cameras are turned off, when you're focused on the next crisis, wherever it may be. We are committed to the long haul, and we're committed to this community, and you have my word on that. Certainly remarkable leadership that you have here with the assembly member who's uniquely positioned to deliver on those promises and what we're promoting, Senator Laird as well. I should note, and I think it's important to acknowledge, 55, 58, 95, 98. You just think of 1995, close to $100 million in 1995 of damage to lives lost. The question we're all having is, why are we as dumb as we want to be? Why wasn't this fixed, this levee, years and years, decades ago? There was a comment supervisor was making, said we were knocking on doors and there was an 80-year-old young man who said, I got this, I've lived through 5 of these. And he said, no need for me to evacuate. He had the kind of experience that only failure provides. And the failure of a quality of imagination in partnership with the federal government to disabuse ourselves that we can continue down the path of not considering communities regardless of their economic status. And so I know that's been pointed to, and I want to be pointed in terms of responding to that. We have work to do to follow through on the commitments we have made, and I want you to know we're not reacting to those commitments. And I think this is important for folks to know. Assemblymember Rivas deserves enormous credit. He and Senator Laird drove legislation that I signed last year to provide upwards of $138 million of state money to fulfill the obligations for the local community to match the costs of the project to fix this levee. The challenge, you may know, many of you have written about it, some of you have talked about it, but I need to reinforce it, is that we have a project that requires a local match, not a state match, but a local match. 35% of the project has to be borne by the local community, 65% by the federal government. It's estimated, and this was before this storm, that the project's a $397 million project, of which $138 million needs to be borne by the local community. Recognizing that burden and the enormity of that, the legislature stepped up last year, and I was proud to support an effort where the state would move in and we would pick up the responsibility of the local government to the tune of roughly $138 million. Now the challenge is, can't go like that overnight and fix this. And that's why it was soberly stated that we're looking at a 5 to 7 year process. Now, don't get me wrong, as we were just on the levee, I'm not satisfied any more than you are with 5 to 7 years. We know what's happened. Just in the last 5 months, you were this close in January, 3 months, 2 months ago, in terms of that levee breaching. It had not been for the work that was done by your local water agencies and support of some of the state agencies, we may have had an incident in January. We're not out of the woods. Again, the 11th atmospheric river on our way to the 12th, and we're only on the 15th of March. So that's priority number one. We also are working and have been working, and I have Carla Namath here who runs the State Water Project. We have been working with the Army Corps to move away from this mindset as it relates to that socioeconomic frame more broadly, because there are other communities, not just this community, that potentially will be impacted by similar analysis. We've got to change the way the federal government scores these projects to prioritize those communities that are most vulnerable, period, full stop. If you're California, our values flip to one where we focus, particularly as it relates to disaster response and disaster preparedness, from the lens of socioeconomics. That's the framework which we look to our work on wildfires. It's the aim to which we work as it relates to flood protection as well. The federal government we need to work more collaboratively with. We have put them on notice. I'm reinforcing it here today, not in reaction to this incident, but reinforcing it certainly after this incident, the imperative of moving in that direction. Number three, I recognize the imperative of what was stated. There are a lot of people here that are not immediately eligible for assistance. Folks out here that we're very mindful of. There's not a state in America, not one state, no other state that does more for farm workers in the state of California, and we don't do enough. Please include that. And we don't do enough. I want folks to know, you may know this, but it's important to reinforce today, March 15th, United Way was able to get $42 million from USDA, and they're starting to send out $600 checks for farm workers regardless of their immigration status. And they're working with United Way in Santa Cruz, and here in Monterey County, and in other impacted communities. 42 million is not enough, but I want to applaud the great work, United Way, and their partner agencies, local agencies, as well as the larger CBO network and philanthropy that we're working with, as we do in these instances, to backfill and offset some of the immediate stress and costs as we work to stack a deeper understanding for FEMA so that we can work towards that major disaster declaration. I've done too many of these major disaster declarations in just 4 short years as governor. We're still assessing the damage to do that, and that's being assessed in real time. And I assure you, no one is more eager to promote that and get that established. And we've had direct conversations with the director of FEMA, not just the White House, and the president himself, who we talked to on Saturday specifically about the circumstances here, that's more eager to provide that once we reach that threshold. Beyond that, we now do have an emergency deck that includes, as of yesterday, 43 counties of the 58 in the state of California. We do have, as I speak, 31 shelters that are operating in 14 counties in the state of California. And we continue to provide, in the short run, the kind of high water vehicles that you see around, and obviously the swift search and rescue teams and the work with CAL FIRE, where they're working in collaboration with the incredible, call them all Swiss Army knives, National Guard, men and women, and the Conservation Corps and others to address not just this moment, to prepare for this weekend and the moments beyond. And I say the moments beyond in closing. I heard loud and clear, stormwater capture. That's why I've done 2 executive orders on that front. That's why I did a water plan a few months ago. Please take a look, the 2040 water plan that comes out with numeric goals on groundwater storage, stormwater capture, and water recycling. And because of the legislative leadership of Assemblymember Rivas, $8.6 billion to back that up. A plan, numeric goals, strategies, and money that's been set aside and is being invested and appropriated. And the priority now is time value of these projects. Get these projects moving. And that takes executive orders. Well, we just did 2. I don't want to have to do that in every case, but we've got to fast track these permits so we address that legitimate issue as well, so we capture more of the extremes. I'll close on that. I know this has been extremely stressful for everybody, and keep referring to it. It's a stacking of stress. Everything everybody's been through, not just with these storms. 6 months ago was the drought. Then, 6 months prior, we were still in the midst, don't forget, of COVID and all the issues that disproportionately have impacted the Latino community and communities like this. And so I just want to close by saying how proud I am you have a CAO and members of the Board of Supervisors that get it, but more importantly, get it in a very deep and emotional way. As we were talking in the back of the car, as we were driving the levee, how proud they are of this community, and the word over and over that was used, resilience. And so it's in that spirit of resilience and the spirit of recovery that we're here with great expectations, and expectations that will be met, and accountability with the state, federal, and local leaders that will be equally shared. With that, of course, all of us are here to answer any questions.
Governor, for many people, this flood was their worst fear realized. As you said, this is a known problem. It's been known for decades. The money is there to fix it. When can people expect to see construction on the solution?
Well, we've got the temporary fix. It's ongoing as we speak, and I say ongoing. They may have plugged it late afternoon yesterday. We still have to stack it in preparation of what may come. As we noted, the money, $397 million before this current situation, 10-mile or so levee out to the sea, project that was scoped but wasn't funded at the local level. The state will provide that support. We provided $15 million in the last many years for pre-planning and other work on this project. At the state level, we have been providing that support. We have a 5 to 7 year timeline that has been pre-established, but based upon this experience, no one has patience for 5 to 7 years. And that now is our job, working with the Army Corps to look at the scope of the project anew and look at that timeline anew, and I assure you those conversations are already underway.
One more quick question. You mentioned you spoke with the president. What guarantees of help has he given you? Can you tell us what that conversation
Well, he
was like?
didn't give anything more than an immediate response to our emergency recommendations, or rather requests, within a nanosecond. And he didn't do that by passively having his regional folks did it. He did it by picking up the phone and say, "Hey, pal," quote unquote, "yes." I said, "Well, I haven't even asked the question, Mr. President." He says, "As soon as I get it, we're signing it." He's done that over and over. We saw that in January. We saw that late December, not just in January. Can't ask for a better partner. And I'm not saying, forget politics. That's just a fact. Cannot ask for a better partner. And I mentioned, Mr. President, the goal is a major disaster, so we get this direct assistance to small businesses, individuals. But we recognize we've got to meet the threshold, and we're in the process of assessing that. He says, as soon as you get that assessment in, let me know. And so we have all the confidence he'll be there for us.
been impacted by these floods. The federal government and the state stepped in to save Silicon Valley Bank. Is the state and federal government going to step in to save, make whole these people?
Well, there's 42 million reasons why those dollars are going out right now in real time. I know it's short term. We're in the midst of this. We're trying to keep people. We lost another life last night. We lost 4 in these storms. We're not out of the woods. We're still, as I say, under emergency in 43 of the 58 counties. The $42 million is meaningful. Those dollars start going out today. It's not the only money that's going out. California has a framework. My team will provide you a detailed, because it's multi-pages, of the work we do on farm worker housing, the work we do in terms of rapid response grants, the work we did during the pandemic became a baseline of expectation for emergencies like this, of what we could continue to do to fill the gap in terms of those federal gaps that persist, and only underscores, and this is not me abdicating any responsibility, it's me reinforcing a responsibility. You want to talk about dumb as we want to be, this nation not addressing comprehensive immigration reform. It's the core of the question, the core of the issue. I mean, it's a disgrace. What more evidence do we need? Over and over we say this. They can't get out of their own way. And so that is only reinforced in a moment like this. I will happily reinforce that as an advocate. And moreover, we are working, I assure you, with all our CBOs in this remarkable network to provide more emergency response.
I've talked to some families.
Governor, can we give this lady an opportunity?
Term, they have to pay for hotel rooms and
That's why we want to get. That's why we're getting those dollars out as quickly and assuredly as possible. There are a lot of other state programs and CBOs. Catholic Charities does incredible work in this space. We have rules and regulations that, with all due respect, a lot of these other governors don't, as it relates to protecting the privacy of people without their immigration status. We have emergency food under what we call disaster CalFresh, which is profoundly important and significant regardless of immigration status. I'll give you a detailed list so you could provide that, because I think the community deserves to know. Sorry.
Just supporting that question, when the money is going to be available for farm workers, when they can start applying?
Today.
Today?
Yeah.
So they can call United Way today and start applying?
Yep.
Okay.
Correct.
Governor Newsom, there's a long history of these disasters happening in low-income and minority communities across the state. There's, the Sacramento levees, there's the Oroville Dam, other similar issues. I'm just wondering what the state is doing to head off this sort of trend of infrastructure failures in low-income communities.
I mean, we put out a detailed plan to answer that question. 142 action items, by the way, 142. We backed that plan up with numeric goals in a 2040 update of the plan, talking about a ratification, which only exacerbates the need to move with more urgency. We put out detailed plans as it relates to disaster recovery with an equity lens to substantively answer your question about the impacts that disproportionately are borne by low-income communities. And we put up, let me give you an exact dollar figure, just in the last 3.5 years, $738 million for flood protection. You can look at where those dollars have gone, and you'll see those as beneficiaries of communities that have disproportionately been underrepresented. In that $8.6 billion that have been set aside, you'll also look at more systemic strategies to make up for the last half century. I've only been here a few years. Feels like a lot longer for you, and trust me, me. But I cannot press upon you more that we get we deeply understand that the infrastructure that was built in the 1950s is no longer relevant to the world we're living in, and the consequences of the environment, literally, not just figuratively, that we're living in, and the extremes and the weather whiplash that all of us are struggling and suffering through in this state. And so we have to move with speed, and we have to move more deliberatively and in a much more collaborative spirit with the federal government that bears, as you know, a big part of the responsibility, Central Valley Water Project, and through the Army Corps and others that are not sparring partners, working partners to find solutions.
Governor, you're standing right next to one of the flooded out fields. I mean, what's going to happen to California agriculture this year?
Well, I was up in Merced, some of these folks a couple of weeks ago. Being asked that exact question. Remarkable resiliency there. I mean, obviously we'll have to assess that reality. It's been, pretty extreme in terms of the drought, the consequences to ag. That said, water supplies will be more ample than they have been in the past. That's going to provide more of an abundant mindset for ag. I want to, by the way, thank Driscoll for stepping up for this community. They deserve a lot of credit out here on the coast, but all that needs to be assessed. I know it's, we can tend to overreact in circumstances like this. We could underreact. We just have to be, I think, more cognizant once the dust settles, in this case, once the waters recede.
One more question.
We ran into a lady a couple of days ago who said, "Tell them not to forget about Pajaro."
Yeah.
What would you say to her?
Well, I'd say that I heard her. That's why I'm here. And that's why I'll come back. That's why I was here a week ago. Look, you want to get to my why I ran for this damn office. It goes to striking out against injustice and standing up for ideals. And one of my responsibilities to be here for people that are underserved and underrepresented. And so I hope she knows we have her back and will be back many times to get the work done. Thank you guys very, very much for being here. Thanks, Sheriff.
Supervisor,
Appreciate it. Yeah.
do you have a minute?
Seriously, thank you.